Thank you so much, everyone. So great to see everybody. Great to see you today. So I wanted to start off with a story of unintended consequences. I wanted to tell you a story about what happened to me in my very first job out of college. I was recruited for a very, very small boutique investment management firm right outside of New York City. I was 22 years old, and I was excited. I was ready to be a super duper success story. I was working for a gentleman who at that time had 42 employees. And I guess I should probably let you know before we get started that today he has over 1,000 employees and he's worth over $3 billion. And I left that job. So I'm not going to tell you the story of how bummed I am that I left so much money on the table. But I will tell you this. He'd hired a group of 7 people, all of us from schools where we really had to burn the candle at all ends to succeed. And he thought, great. Let's encourage them to keep on working hard. Here's what he did. He told us that if we worked past 7 o'clock at night, he'd give us $10 for dinner. What a deal. Think about it for a second. You're 22 years old. You're not making a lot of money yet, right? You see all the fancy cars out in the driveway thinking, I could be that person someday. And my boss just told me that he'll give me $10 for dinner if I stay past 7 o'clock. What are you going to do? You going to stay past 7 o'clock? You going to get the message that working late hours all the time is a good idea? And by the way, what does a 22-year-old buy with $10 in their pocket? Pizza or fast food? And that was the very first message I ever got about how I should manage my health to support my career. And what's interesting is that at that time, you're 22, you don't know any better. You spent all of your life being a hard-charging student and doing well, and here you have this big opportunity, right? But I didn't make the connection between what had happened in my job and what was going to happen to me 14 years later when I saw a photograph of myself when I was suddenly 40 pounds overweight with stage 1 hypertension, well on my way to heart disease. And I also didn't make the connection at that time until very recently between that moment when I was 22 and what had happened 3 years earlier when I had gone to my father's funeral because he died of a massive heart attack when I was only 19 that was brought on by obesity and stress. None of those things were obvious to me when I was 22. And they weren't obvious to my boss either. He just wanted to reward us for good work. Do the policies inside our companies affect the health of our employees? Do we sometimes not realize the unintended consequences of creating a work environment that actually leads to sickness? I'm not going to have too much bad news for you in this talk, but I'm just going to have a little bit. Here it is. I want to give you a number. Ready? $576 billion a year. That's what it costs for employees when they get sick and when they can't work effectively. That has to do with everything from workman's compensation, to sick days, to absenteeism, to turnover, to presenteeism, the idea that if you're not really all there at work, you kind of show up but you're sick, or you show up but you're tired, you just can't be completely all there. $576 billion a year, you are an audience of CEOs and entrepreneurs. I want to know how much of that money you're leaving on the table just by having policies that lead people to not make the best decisions about their health. So I'll tell you a little secret. I don't want to talk a lot today about my own personal story, but I am going to tell you I feel like I'm a little bit of a poster child, a little bit of a soldier on the front, because I was that employee who needed just a little bit of guidance about how to get things done. And I really did weigh about 40 pounds more a few years ago. Now, for any smart alecks in the audience who are looking at me and saying, well, she looks a little bit thick around the waist right now, there's a different reason. I'm a 43-year-old woman who's now expecting my first baby. And I'll tell you, there is something quite amazing and dramatic about going to the doctor and having the doctor say, your genetic tests look great, your blood pressure looks fantastic, you got a healthy baby in there. Not bad, huh? My dad died of heart disease. It's in the family. How'd that happen? I know how it happened. It happened because of the same things that happen when great athletes meet a great challenge. Now I'm going to say right now, it is January 20th, 2015, and we are in the great city of Seattle, Washington. So I think every single person in this room saw a pretty good football game a couple of days ago. Did we not? Okay. Now, before I go on, I just want to say, if anybody's watching the video and you're from Green Bay, Wisconsin, we like you too. My husband is actually from Madison, Wisconsin. So we were actually having a good day no matter what was going on. But here's the fundamental thing that the Seattle Seahawks were able to do in the NFC Championship game 48 hours ago. They stuck to the basics of what works when things get hard. They stuck to their fundamentals. The individual who caught the winning touchdown, Jermaine Kearse, had missed the other 4 passes he'd been thrown that day. But Russell Wilson, the quarterback for the Seahawks, knew the fundamentals. He had thrown thousands of passes to Jermaine Kearse. He knew that if he got the coverage he wanted and he got the situation he wanted, he could make that catch even if the rest of the game had gone horrendously. And it had. I'm going to give you today 3 questions to ask yourself in your business. We're going to go through in a workshop today to actually think through how you can set up a healthy work environment. And I'm not talking about this little buzzword that we say, wellness, because there's a reason. When we think of wellness in the workplace, we think of apps, we think of games, websites, that thing that your insurance company tells you is going to save you lots of money, right? I want to give you a different definition of wellness. Ready? Here it is. Wellness is having both the knowledge and the confidence to make the decisions day to day, hour to hour, and in the moment that lead to mastery over our health. That is true wellness. Having the knowledge and the confidence, both of those things. You got to know what to do and then be able to execute to make the decisions that lead to mastery over our health. It's not a secret. The science is clean. I want you to mentally walk through your office right now and mentally think about the policies you have in place, like the policy that my former employer had about the $10 for dinner thing. And ask yourself these 3 questions. For every employee in my business, from the person who opens the door in the morning to the person who closes the door at night, what can they do during the day when they are hungry, when they are tired, and when everything goes haywire? And by everything going haywire, what I mean is that your top client calls and says, we just wanted to let you know that we've hired your competition. That's the kind of stress we're talking about. Because I guarantee you that when you are hungry, when you are tired, and when you are really stressed out, you are about to make a decision that is going to affect your health. And most of us make the wrong one. But think about it. Just walk through your company right now. Just think about it. I'm going to ask you today to find that simplicity, that easy way of saying to yourself, what's the easiest thing that my employee can do when they're hungry? Do you only have vending machines with sweet stuff and candies at the front desk? Or do you have a fruit bowl? Do you have a listing of healthy restaurants? Do you give people an actual lunch break, and do they actually take it because culturally it's allowed to happen? How about when you're tired? There's only 2 things you can do when you're tired to get refreshed during the day. What are they? There are only 2 things. Brain science tells us. What are they? Number 1, sleep, take a 20-minute nap. Or, what's the other one? Move. Yes. In fact, Stanford University just found out that in a story that they did in, in a study that they did in 2014, that people who are walking, when they're in the act of walking, are more creative. They are better thinkers. They're more creative problem solvers. Isn't that what you want from your employees? Do you see what's in it for you? We're not talking about healthcare costs here. We're talking about employees that want to come to work because they know they're not going to have to check their health at the door to be able to work with you. And you're not going to have to either. Think about that. Is it okay to take a nap in your business? Is it okay to go out for a walk when you need to? And the most important one of all, what are you going to do when everything hits the fan? When you are in a terribly, terribly stressed state, what are you going to do? Are you going to just go back to your computer and just say, I got to keep working. I'll fix this up. I promise I'll fix it. Or do you have the knowledge and the confidence, and does every single person in your company have that knowledge and confidence to be able to say, I need an hour. I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to think this through, and I'm going to stay off email. Because email is a really dangerous thing to do when you're upset. Okay. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to send a note to our executive team about how we're going to deal with this. Can you really do that inside your company? Those three things. What do you do when you're hungry? What do you do when you're tired? What do you do when things go haywire? If you can get your company to a place where you can allow all of your employees to make the healthiest and easiest possible decision in all three of those places, you will be well on your way to having a truly healthy work culture. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I can't wait to bring you through the process that we'll go through today, and by the time you leave today, you will have the tools that you need to be able to implement these solutions inside your company starting first thing tomorrow morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for your time.